Your body was designed to be without food. That's why we have reserves on our body. We have fat reserves. That's why we have that, because there's an overage. Whenever there's an overage, being that there's an abundance of food, let's call it fuel. Calories is not really a thing. Not in the real world human body. Calories don't. Look up calories. It's not how they get calories very well. So as your metabolism slows down because of years of abuse, what we call aging, you can make reserves very quickly. So that's what the reserves are for. And so then when there's less food available, you can start using your reserves. Your body knows how to do that. It knows how to do that wonderfully. I wanted to talk about meal frequency and if it's healthy to skip meals, healthy to fast, if it's okay or detrimental to do any of those things. Because through the years, I've heard a lot of comments, whether it be something that I was doing or just in general, about needing to eat at intervals during the day, throughout the day, even grazing. Now, while there may be some situations where that is beneficial and maybe even necessary, I'm going to talk about the natural, healthy design of our bodies. And by far, how most of us fall into that category of being able to follow those patterns. When a person goes without food for a prescribed amount of time, whether it's intermittent fasting, where they're eating in a window, let's say of 8 hours, or they're skipping a whole day of meals, or fasting for long periods of time, or even going with kind of seasonal approaches of maybe certain times of the year, like summertime, eating less because they're eating more hydrating fruits, which equates to less fuel, let's say. Maybe not less volume because of all the structured water within those things. And a lot of people actually do eat heavier in the wintertime, right? It might be a response to wanting to put on some extra pounds, just a natural response to pad the body. So those that year in, year out, eat the same way, sometimes even the same foods, but the same way. They eat breakfast at 7. They have a coffee in the morning. Before that, they eat breakfast at 7. They eat lunch at noon. They eat dinner at 5 or 6. Maybe have a snack. It's a pattern that they're in. Not everybody has to be in that pattern. It's not necessarily a healthy pattern even. Your body was designed to be without food. That's why we have reserves on our body. We have fat reserves. That's why we have that, because there's an overage. Whenever there's an overage, being that there's an abundance of food, because never in the history of people has there been an abundance of food for most of us. Not all of us, I get it. But most of us in developed countries, pretty much every week of the year. Never has that been in known history. And so our bodies have become, let's say, adapted to certain times of the season, year, being able to eat more than our body can use for fuel. Let's call it fuel. Calories is not really a thing. Not in the real world human body. Calories don't. Look up calories. It's not how they get calories. But that's our fuel. source, at least that most people use, not everybody. So when we take in an abundance of that, and there's too much of that, then our body stores it. Now, when you're young and your metabolism's really fast and really healthy, usually you can burn, utilize that fuel very efficiently, very well. As your metabolism slows down because of years of abuse, what we call aging, then not so much. You can make reserves very quickly. So that's what the reserves are for. And so then when there's less food available, you kind of start using your reserves. Your body knows how to do that. It knows how to do that wonderfully. When you never get a chance to use that system, now a lot of people use that system when it comes to being over their fuel requirement, but they never really use the system of using the fuel requirement. Does that make sense? And so that never really gets utilized. And so they just over the years pack on more weight. And the body's not really meant to be over a set point of weight, a healthy weight, for a period of time, a long period of time. You should be able to, just throwing some things out there, you should be able to touch your toe. You should be able to run for a, sprint, maybe not, all out at a 10, but you should be able to do certain things. If you can't do those things for a good period of your life, then I'm saying that the weight is probably not serving you. So when someone goes on a calorie restricted diet, they call it, they're trying to use up some of those reserves. Is it healthy? Yes, it's healthy. Do some people have to be careful with that because of their state of health, because of what they've done to their body, because of the abuses? Perhaps some people, no fault of their lifestyle, come into these certain conditions. I get it, but by far that's not the situation. So when a person wants to intermittent fast because they want to take advantage of more hours in the day where there's autophagy, where the body is using up old material, where the body is learning to balance its own blood sugar, that's a very good thing. Now, that's a whole nother subject of intermittent fasting, and I'm not an expert on it. I've done it. I've talked to many people who have, coached a few people who are doing it and have done it. There's a difference between men and women. There seems to be patterns with women that, could be more optimal when you're intermittent fast based on cycles. So there's always, I'm talking generalities, especially in this video. So there's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be situations that, yes, but, okay, I get that. But in general. So in general, when someone wants to, let's say, do a specific cleanse, maybe a water-only fast, maybe a juice-only fast, maybe an enzyme-only fast, what I just did, you can go without food very, very healthily. It's very good for you because it allows your body. Did you know that digestion takes, I've heard, like 75% of your energy, which makes sense because when you eat a heavy meal, you feel tired. You don't even want to get off the couch. And when you don't eat, if you have a balanced blood sugar, which your body can usually do if you're in a semi-healthy state, you actually feel energized for most of it. Not always, not every day, not every minute. But you feel lighter. So your body wants to use the fuel that's already there. It will first get through the food that it has remaining in your gut. It will process through all of that, carbohydrates. It'll turn fat into fuel. It'll process the proteins. And then it will go to it's either muscle glycogen or liver glycogen. I think it's muscle glycogen. The sugars that's stored, glycogen's sugar, stored in your muscles. It'll go through that. It'll get through the liver glycogen. I think that's third. And it'll start using all those stores. That's where you have stores of glycogen. Very little, though. You have very little stored glycogen in your body. Because our bodies are meant to use reserves of fat when needed. So then it goes into the utilization of fats on your body. Also, it'll start to eat up dead and dying cells as fuel. This is also why sometimes if a person is obese and they fast, they can not feel so good because they're burning through a lot of that toxic fuel that's stored in their body. Old hydrogenated fats that is stored that your body doesn't know what the hell to do with because it's not natural, and just a lot of stored stuff. So there's optimal ways to do that. So if somebody is not eating for a period of time, there is no harm in that for the most part. Kids that are trained to graze all day long, they're being trained to graze all day long. They'll know no other way. It used to be, and we survived it, that we would eat 3 meals a day. Now kids are eating breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, snack, dinner, snack, sometimes snack again. And I know of families now that eat 3 meals a day with their kids, growing children, young children, 3 good, healthy meals a day. What is served is what is eaten for the most part. And those kids thrive. I'm just giving you alternate ways of thinking, because many times when we all do this, we get into a pattern of thinking, whether it was because that's the way we were raised, that's what we just come to believe by the information that we have had, or sometimes it's our emotional leanings and we want it to be true, and that's when we make it true, we make it work. That it's not the only choices available. It's not sometimes even the optimal ones. So when you see someone who's fasting, whether it's intermittent fasting, whether it's, a week-long juice only fast or water only fast, they just feel not really well. They don't want to eat for 2 days. They're in bed and you're trying to force feed them. Don't do that. If the body's not hungry, there's a reason why the body's not hungry. Your body has wisdom. And if you learn how to listen to it, then you'll go a lot farther. Now, my body's wisdom tells me something. Your body's wisdom tells you something. I can't tell you what your body's wisdom is telling you. You have to learn how to do that. And I'm not telling you what your body's wisdom is telling you. But in general, as a human race, this is how our bodies were designed. And what's going on today, because of people that want to make money on products, they are going to produce their own studies and say that that's a successful study about that, breakfast is important, the most important meal of the day, says Kellogg. That milk does a body good, says the milk industry. Now, I'm not saying that breakfast is bad for you. I'm not saying that milk is bad for you. Well, actually, pasteurized milk is not the best ever. But what I am saying is look at these things more critically, with a more critical eye, and don't criticize someone who is following their own body wisdom, if they're truly following their own body wisdom. If someone's ill and they don't have an appetite, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's amazing how wise the body is. We would not have gotten this far as a human race if we were not able to go without food for a time. And looking back on those people, tribes, nations, situations, and saying, oh, poor them, they could have done so much better if they did it my way. We're here because they did it their way. We're here. Yeah, did people die of starvation? Yes. Did people die of disease? Yes. But hear what I'm saying. There's a cadence at the body, at the human, there's a cadence that humans have adapted to. And we're still in that cadence. There's not enough adaptation time in a healthy way that we've had in order to change that. There's a lot of emotions that come with eating, a lot. Always. There's always emotions involved. And it's a fascinating subject, eating psychology. When you start to be able to dig deep into your emotions around eating and food and diet and weight, it opens up a whole new world, opens your eyes, makes you become so much more aware and in control. You are empowered the more that you understand your own psychology of eating. It's something that we're going to be talking about on my LIVETRU live calls that are currently being held on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, about an hour and a half. There'll be a topic presented. There'll be discussion, Q&A. I'm going to have some guests once in a while. It's going to be a really good time. We're going to talk about a lot of good subjects, including the psychology of eating. You can find out more about membership on my website, which I'll post below, and go to the group support page where you can sign up as a member or at least find out about it. So that's all for today. This is Terry Lynn with LIVETRU.